Prince Harry in tears after Piers Morgan just reveals what happened to Meghan's staff on New Year's night. The carefully built universe of Harry and Meghan was destroyed on New Year's Eve when a single magnified voice ripped through the groomed quiet of their California castle. This occurred at the same time that the world was celebrating a fragile optimism for the future. It was not just a desperate appeal from a dismissed employee that led to the encounter that followed. Rather, it was a methodically prepared explosion of secrets that revealed a terrible story of financial fraud, a covert corporate empire, and a disheartening personal betrayal. Now, with the purported proof made plain under the harsh light of global media, the world is asking the unimaginable question. Was Prince Harry's fantasy escape from the monarchy nothing more than a precursor to the most premeditated and disastrous royal divorce in the current era of modern history? A reckoning at Monteceto's gate in the middle of the night. Before we continue, please kindly subscribe. We are on a journey to reach 1,000 subscribers in less than 2 weeks, and we're counting on you. Like, comment, and hit on the notification bell. According to information that is unique to people who are close to the developing drama, the tale did not start with a bang, but rather with the icy digital finality of a 2-sentence email at 2:00 a.m. According to reports, a senior assistant at Archwell called Elena got a message from Meghan Markle herself on January 1st, 2026, as fireworks were beginning to fade throughout the world. Insiders have characterized the substance of the document as being quite succinct, and it's stated as follows: "Your services are no longer needed. Because of the improper work attitude, all cash claims shall be considered null and void." This was more than just a termination for Elena, who had apparently been key in handling the public relations of the Sussexes and cleaning up Meghan's image during the previous year. Do not try to make any more contact. The declaration of war was what it was. According to the allegations, the message not only vaporized her last month's income, but also a legally promised endofear bonus that amounted to an unprecedented $100,000. In the pristine atmosphere of Monteceto, where disagreements are resolved behind closed doors by groups of attorneys armed with ironclad non-disclosure agreements. The subsequent event was an act of defiance that had never been seen before. An alternative course of action was taken by Elena in contrast to the scores of staff members who had purportedly disappeared from the Sussex household over the course of the years. Their departures being cloaked in gossip and sealed by legal silence, her selection was the megaphone. Under the gloomy and exclusive street lights of the neighborhood, she positioned herself at the main gate of the Sussex estate. Her polished public relations veneer was peeled away, revealing a raw and scorching wrath. Piers Morgan, a prominent figure in the world of media, was able to catch her screams on a neighbor's smartphone and then broadcast them to the whole globe throughout the course of the night. "Meghan, you cannot stay hidden for so long. Please come out here and do me the justice I deserve." Simply by itself, this act signified a catastrophic collapse of the well-regulated environment that the Sussexes had produced. For a number of years, they had been cultivating an image of caring leadership by lecturing on platforms all over the world about the rights of workers and the mental health of employees. On the other hand, a senior assistant was standing there in front of them, accusing them of the precise hypocrisy that they had been preaching against. The callous and unilateral destruction of a subordinate means of subsistence on New Year's Day. The optics were awful. According to crisis management professionals who were witnessing the impact of the catastrophe, it was a strong and quickly viral metaphor of an imagined David and Goliath fight, with the picture of a solitary lady with a megaphone facing against a home that was worth many millions of dollars. In addition, it contributed directly to a public narrative that already existed, which was that of a stressful work environment and a high staff turnover rate. This was a story that the Sussexes had battled relentlessly and expensively to deny. According to reports, the situation within the stronghold was one of controlled pandemonium. According to accounts from the security crew, Prince Harry was a surprised and quiet witness to the action that was taking place below him as he stood still at a window on the second story. While this was going on, Meghan was reportedly calling her legal advisors in a frenzy, looking for a way to put out the public relations fire before it could even begin to spread. Elena's angry charges reverberated outside the house, and they included allegations of stiffed paychecks, falsified contracts, and the cruel withholding of deserved recompense. The strange stillness that emanated from inside the estate seemed to be in striking and damning contrast to these allegations. In the context of the first show, Piers Morgan addressed the issue that hung heavy in the air. Was this a typical labor dispute, even if it was an unpleasant one? Alternatively, did Elena have a secret that was so terrible that it pushed Meghan to make a decision, pushing her to put herself in danger by participating in this highly public show in an effort to quiet her for good? Not much time would be required for the world to wait for the response. Because Elena had taken receipts with her, the clash that took place at the gate was simply the first volley in a struggle for the truth. When confronted with the unthinkable, a prince. When Harry and Meghan were ultimately forced to emerge from the standoff, their figures were highlighted by the glaring floodlights of their own security detail. This caused the standoff to grow into a dramatic and theatrical battle. The quarrel went beyond a matter of money and evolved into a test of devotion and love, and claimed grand-scale deceit at this very time, which took place under the watchful eye of Elena's live streaming phone, which was constantly monitoring the situation. A stack of papers that had been sealed was taken out of Elena's purse while she was shaking, but she did it with the fiery resolve of someone who had nothing left to lose. The lady who had terminated her employment, on the other hand, was not the focus of her eyes. Prince Harry, who was standing pale and still next to his bride, was the target of the attention. "Harry, do you believe that you are living right out of a fairy tale?" According to reports, her voice resounded loudly and cut through the tense atmosphere. "Take a careful look at the lady who is standing next to you," she said, as she hurled the first batch of images onto the bonnet of a security truck with a flick of her wrist. They are said to have photographed moments of surprising closeness between Meghan and Marcus Anderson, the global membership director of Soho House and one of her oldest and closest confidants. The photographs, which were perfectly clear even in the low light, are said to have documented these moments. This was not a random collection of photographs. Some of the sources who have seen the images have described the following: discreet hand touches under dinner tables at private events where Harry was noticeably absent. Long lingering gazes that spoke of a connection that was much deeper than friendship, and even frames of the two pressed closely together in dimly lit spaces. Their body language screaming of a secret affair. This evidence would have been more than simply stunning for Harry, a man whose whole life has been molded by the anguish of his mother's very public problems with infidelity and media intrusion. Harry's mother has been a victim of both of these things more than once. There would have been a recreation of his deepest-seated anxieties that would have been both visceral and soul-crushing. The same horror that he had traveled across an ocean to get away from was the betrayal of a spouse, which manifested itself for the whole world to witness. According to eyewitness accounts, his hands began to shake as Elena presented her next piece of evidence, which consisted of photographs taken inside the Archwell offices during late hours. The photographs showed Meghan and Marcus with their heads bowed together over a stack of secret files. Meghan's face was illuminated with a radiant, unguarded smile, which, according to sources, was a smile that Harry had not seen directed at him in years. This was the last and most destructive blow, which arrived in the shape of gigantic printed text messages. As Elena proclaimed, "This is what will break you out of your dream, Harry," her voice rang with a terrifying mixture of sorrow and triumph. "It is time for you to wake up. This is the blueprint for a new empire that your wife and that Marcus man have been covertly developing behind your back." The comments, which were as icy and sharp as ice, supposedly revealed a strategy that was so audacious that it was astounding. Supposedly, Meghan stated to Marcus in one of her messages, "Everything is proceeding as planned in our empire. His name will not appear at any point. I am completely exhausted with the role of the enduring wife that is required to maintain the regal image." The claimed response that Marcus gave was even more damning: "Be patient. Once this initiative secures the funds, we will be free. When all is said and done, all you need to do is get Harry to sign off on those financial power of attorney documents for the shell business. And you will have everything you need without having to share a single dime with him." The basis of Harry's universe began to shatter. At that very instant, the claims portrayed an image similar to that of a long-term, well-planned conspiracy rather than a straightforward affair. The lady for whom he had sacrificed his family, his nation, and his royal identity was being accused of using him as a stepping stone. A transitory partner whose name and prestige were only assets to be exploited before a planned and financially devastating disposal. Elena's voice, which was now quivering with passion, delivered the conclusive and relentless accusation. "This is not only a case of her violating your sentiments. She's plotting to dump you, but take every asset, leaving you broke. She married you just to use the title, and now, with Marcus in the picture, you're just an obstacle to be neatly removed." The prince, who had once stood as a global symbol of romantic rebellion, now stood under the floodlights of his own home as the alleged victim of the ultimate deception. The termination of a conspiracy as a whole. This was only the beginning of the havoc that occurred on New Year's Eve. Within a few hours, Elena's liver-reamed video, which was a raw and chaotic chronicle of the conflict, accumulated tens of millions of views, therefore converting a private argument into a worldwide media firestorm. Following the emergence of two additional witnesses from the shadows, public opinion, which had first been characterized by a mixture of curiosity and morbid fascination, started to solidify into a deep-seated distrust. One of them is a current employee at Archwell, while the other is a former partner who has significant links to the Soho House network. Both of them have come forward to verify Elena's tale, adding layers of terrifying detail to the alleged scheme. The reports that they provided showed that the termination of Elena was not a response to ineptitude, as Meghan had purportedly stated, but rather a frightened exercise of damage management. The witnesses said that they had directly seen Meghan's horrifying outburst of wrath directed toward Elena only a few hours before the demonstration. Elena had accidentally caught a peek of a top-secret dossier that had been carelessly placed on Meghan's desk. According to their suspicions, this was the spark that led to the tragic event. This file did not include any Archwell branding, nor was it associated with any philanthropic endeavor that was known to exist. The title of the project was Project as Ever, which seemed quite foreboding. As a result of these disclosures from insiders, speculation started to circulate about the actual nature of this initiative. In their testimony, the witnesses created a picture of a covert and parallel financial empire that Meghan and Marcus Anderson were building. This empire was completely distinct from the joint enterprises that Meghan was working on with Harry. There were rumors that Project As Ever was a comprehensive plan to expand a personal brand by utilizing Marcus' formidable network of Hollywood power players and financial elites to secure massive funding. This funding would not flow into Archwell, but rather into a new entity that would be controlled solely by Meghan and her partner. The sheer fact that such a project existed raised a gigantic red flag. Why was Harry, the co-founder of their common brand, utterly excluded from such a big commercial venture by the very nature of the initiative itself? Commentators on the royal family and business experts equally started to speculate that this was Meghan's life raft, a perfectly crafted escape vehicle that was intended to propel her into the stratosphere of global power, regardless of the royal link that she ostensibly disdained. A second file was purportedly lying next to the business plan, and the witnesses revealed information about it. This information was far more frightening than expected. Its title, which was a draft of a divorce document, was a knife that went straight to the heart of the Sussex fairy tale. Those individuals who said that they were aware of its contents described a document that was drafted with sophisticated and predatory legal accuracy. Meghan was able to get sole custody of their children and control over the overwhelming majority of their joint assets because of the alleged clauses which were meant to provide her an absolute edge in the event that they decided to dissolve their marriage. The script was terrifyingly apparent if it were true. Meghan was not simply preparing a future with Marcus Anderson. She was supposedly ensuring that when she left Harry, she would take everything with her, including the finances, the children, and the authority that she had obtained via a title that she had acquired through marriage. The timing was such that it could not possibly be a coincidence. At the very time that Meghan became aware that Alina could have been able to access her confidential plans, she reportedly took action to neutralize the danger, so causing the exact explosion that she had been trying to avoid. A defense in shambles and the lawyer's gamble are two examples. And another earthquake shook the foundations of the Monteceto estate at precisely the same time that the general public was laboring to comprehend the intricate particulars of project as ever. In this instance, the quake sprang from inside the most trusted inner sanctuary that Meghan has. Suddenly, she broke her silence, and it was a long-standing close friend who had also been her personal lawyer ever since she was in Canada before she became a queen. Her testimony, which carried the enormous weight of someone who was privy to the most sensitive legal secrets, shed a fresh and damaging light on the backup plans that Meghan seemed to have been planning all along. It was stated by this attorney, whose name has been concealed by news organizations, that she had been coerced into participating in a plan that she could no longer adhere to on an ethical or moral level. She said that she had been charged with preparing the very confidential divorce file that the other witnesses had described during a period of time when Harry and Meghan's marriage seemed to be the most steady to the outside world. It was her confirmation of the sneaky as held terms that it included that was the true shock. However, she said that Meghan had given her clear instructions to establish a legal structure that would enable her to keep all of the joint assets and ensure that she would have complete custody of the children in the event that the couple divorced. The inference was crystal plain and chilling. Harry's financial stability was reportedly being targeted in a methodically organized departure strategy, which was developed long before any public hint of problems became apparent. A crisis of conscience, she said, was the driving force behind the lawyer's actions. Specific, she gave the impression that one of the key goals of the covert file was to provide Meghan with a legal shield from the repercussions of her connection with Marcus Anderson. In the event that Harry were to use allegations of adultery against her in a custody or asset struggle, the objective was to devise a legal response that would be impregnable and would inadvertently eliminate any such allegations. She indicated that she was unable to continue to take part in a scheme that was meant to systematically deprive a spouse who had placed his confidence in him of his financial and other parental Right. According to her, the moment she made the choice to come forward was an effort to purge her own soul. According to reports, Meghan Markle chose to forsake her policy of quiet in reaction to this heartbreaking new front. She responded to the lawyer's charges by posting a series of razor-sharp rebuttals on social media, describing them as trashy false news and insinuating that they were part of a systematic smear campaign that was coordinated by envious adversaries. However, it seemed that this vigorous defense was a complete and utter failure. The specialists in crisis communications pointed out that a furious and personal denial like this one often reads as fear rather than power. Why would a trusted friend and long-serving lawyer put her job and reputation in jeopardy by fabricating such a thorough and dangerous lie? The public, now supplied with tales that corroborated the allegations from various sources, started asking a straightforward and reasonable question. By this point, the many elements of the scandal were beginning to come together to form a cohesive and horrifying picture. The legal claims made by the attorney offered a justification for the confidential information that Alina had disclosed. The intimate photographs of Meghan and Marcus were no longer just suggestive. They were now prospective proof in a divorce between the couple that had been pre-planned. It was startling to hear Harry maintain his quiet in the face of these unsubstantiated allegations. In light of the high-level professional evidence provided by Meghan's own legal counsel, every retort that Meghan offered was now being examined under a microscope, and her comments seemed to be showing signs of being more hollow. A significant change had taken place in the public narrative. The situation was no longer considered to be a marriage that was experiencing difficulties. Rather, it was starting to seem as if it were a corporate takeover that had been meticulously arranged, with Prince Harry himself serving as the key asset being sold. The shattered faith and the silence of the crown are both present. There was finally a crack in Prince Harry's emotional barriers as a result of the cumulative weight of the claims which came from the dismissed assistant Archwell, insiders, and now her own attorney. This gut-wrenching sight of a full and utter collapse took place inside the luxurious living room of the couple's Monteceto estate. According to leaks that came from the couple's closest circle of friends and family, the location that was supposed to serve as his safe haven of independence had instead become the setting for an emotional breakdown that had never been seen before. According to reports, the prince, who had previously acted as a stubborn shield for his wife against years of media storms, was now being engulfed by the storm that was occurring inside him. According to those who were privy to the situation, Harry absolutely broke down in front of Meghan, with tears flowing down his cheeks and choking sobs reverberating throughout the enormous space. This was not only the misery of the prospect of adultery. It was the agony of a man facing the possibility that his whole existence after the royal family had been constructed on a foundation of falsehoods. This included the severe breach with his family, the public recriminations, and the burning of bridges. The information that was supplied by those who were part of his wife's close circle was too particular, too comprehensive, and too linked to be disregarded as a simple conspiracy for the reasons stated above. Was he only a pawn in a much larger game? These were the silent concerns that had surely tormented his calmer times, and they hung heavy and oppressive in the air. Now, do you think that his love and protection were only the price of entrance for a lady who had an endgame that he could never have imagined? When faced with her husband's overwhelming anguish, Meghan Markle reportedly utilized purposeful vagueness. She did not strongly deny the charges. According to the accounts, she gave a psychologically sophisticated argument that recast betrayal as protection. She said, "Harry, listen to me," in a soothing voice but confused language. Sources said, "You are viewing everything as our enemy's wish." She did not challenge Project as ever or their legal arrangements concerning their future. Marcus Anderson is only a longtime buddy. The claims say she altered her mind and reframed her secret preparations. When questioned, she said, "You have to recognize that all I have done, including those so-called covert plots, is genuinely to safeguard our future and the children. I must develop backup plans on this perilous world to ensure we always have a powerful empire that no one can challenge." This remark may have comforted a distressed husband, but it sent a warning signal to the outer world. Although it implied acceptance of the hidden programs, it denied their malevolent intent. Psychological psychologists noted that it was a common manipulation method, creating a murky area where dishonesty might be considered forethought and greed as sacrifice. However, the logic was flawed. How does protecting a shared future need a hidden economic empire without her husband? One could question why he needs a divorce that deprives him of his possessions. No news statement or reconciliation photo op ended the Sussex earthquake. What followed was a dreadful and oppressive quiet from the Monteceto mansion, leaving the world wondering, will they survive? All eyes are on Harry. Will he accept Meghan's story of protection to save the life he chose? Or were his tears the final torturous baptism of a man awakening to a horrific reality? They lost the trust that underpinned their global brand. The empire they planned to build is now a sand castle. Due to constant accusations and uncertainty, people worldwide hold their breath as they await an official pronouncement or even more quiet. The story ends regardless of the ending. How the exiled prince and his troubled wife will end their narrative is yet unknown. Thank you for watching the video. Please kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share.